everybody, it's Aaran here from Screen Stars, back once again to do another film review for Geek Legion of Doom. And today I am reviewing House of Salem, a British low-budget horror movie that has been written, produced and directed by James Crowe, who has brought us previously films like Curse of the Witching Tree. And what do we get with this movie? Well, as I've said, it's very, very low budget this, and it does show on screen. And it's British made, and it is the story of a child who gets kidnapped at the beginning of the movie by this gang of villains, criminals, who then take him out to this country house, get in touch with the person who they work for, and they are all rubbing their hands hoping that they're going to get a nice big fat ransom demand payout for this kidnapping. But what they don't realise is actually they have been conned and tricked into doing this kidnapping and to go to this house in the country. And this house is in actual fact the House of Salem, and it's a house where unsavoury things happen, shall we say, to children and others in service of trying to speak to the afterlife, and in particular the devil and the occult and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what we get with this movie, plot wise. Now, like I said, this is very, very low budget, and it is hard sometimes to watch this movie because it does take you out of the immersion at times, the low budget. The sound design is fairly low and cheap. Some of the effects are pretty poor that we see here. Some of the face prosthetics later on, it looks like the kind of stuff that's really been put on quite amateurishly, and it does kind of take you out of it, and the fake blood here and there, and some of the masks that the characters wear, they looked exactly like masks you can buy in like a Halloween shop. This sort of type of quality, where you can, like, you know, see the indentations in it and things like that. It was very clear they were cheaply bought masks. So there is no getting away from it. It's cheap budget, this cheap made. And all I kept thinking about was this would have been a really good movie to watch with a bigger budget and a tighter script and a better cast. Because at times, it has to be said, the acting is a little bit ropey, and it all felt a little bit over-rehearsed at times, especially at the end when the action kicks in and there's a couple of scuffles and struggles, and it all looked and felt a bit over-rehearsed, a bit like a play almost. But that's not to say that I thought this was a bad movie. Yes, it's cheap. Yes, it's low budget. Yes, it has its problems. But if you can look past that, the very core of this movie can be at times quite effective. The idea is very good, I think. They're dealing with the occult thing. It actually felt at times like an extended episode of Tales from the Unexpected, if you remember that show. Certainly people from the UK will remember that show, and that was a pretty spooky show. And some of the ideas here they had on hand here were quite effective and quite spooky at times. It's hard to call this movie full-on horror because they never really fully commit to the horror, probably due to budgetary constraints. They couldn't deliver in regards to gore. In fact, there's very little gore to speak of in this movie. Whenever they do or threaten to do something violent, it cuts away, obviously because they can't fully commit to the gore and the effects and what they want to do because of budgetary constraints. The ending did get a bit convoluted and a bit confusing, to the point where I wasn't exactly sure what was going on at one point, which is never really great for a movie. I think they kind of overwrote the ending. I think they tried to be a bit too clever for their own good. I don't think they needed to be, really. And like I say, some of the acting was a bit ropey here and there. I've seen worse, I'll be honest. I have seen much worse, but it wasn't really, really bad. Some things a bit frustrating as well in the movie. There was like a locked chest in the cellar, a few locked chests with like really thick padlocks on that you ain't going to unlock easily, and somebody unlocks them with like a nail that he finds on the floor, which got on my nerves a little bit because it just wasn't realistic at all. And the guy that did it, the character he was playing, was like a hacker. He was like a computer whiz. It's not as if he was like a seasoned lockpicker criminal. and he picks this lock with a nail that he finds on the floor. It just, you know, it'll frustrate me a bit, and that's the main thing with this movie, really. The main negative I can give you with it is it was frustratingly bad, because I could see there was a good movie at the core of this, but at times it could be quite effective, and it had some very good ideas. And I think if they would have had a better budget, I think they could have got some quite effective scares here with this movie. But if you like, you know, horror movies, like occult type horror movies, and you can look back past the low budget, then there might be a decent film here for you to see. Otherwise, this might be worth giving a miss if you can't look back low budget, look past low budgets. But I'll give this probably a 5 out of 10, a fairly decent 5 out of 10. I've seen far worse horror movies, and I do think a lot of the faults that you could throw at this movie weren't necessarily all the movie's fault. I think they do try their best with the budget that they had. So not a terrible movie, but it might be something that you might want to check out if this is your type of horror movie. So thank you for watching, and don't forget to check out Screen Stars if you get the chance. Bye.